I've had a lot of questions lately from people that want to buy property through their superannuation. They want to know if you can do it, how do you do it, and what are the implications. This sudden interest has probably been sparked by the increase in property prices over the last year. It's been a really hot asset class, and anytime there's a hot asset class, people are looking for opportunities to get in. And while it is possible to buy property, physical property, through your superannuation, it does come with some complexities that you need to consider, and that's what I want to go over in today's video. Hello guys, Brad here from The Guided Investor. Welcome back to the channel for another video. If you're new here, consider hitting that subscribe button because I post regular videos about how you can do more with your money. And today we're talking about buying property through your superannuation. Firstly, in order to buy property through your super, you're going to need a self-managed superannuation fund, or SMSF. Now, with an SMSF, this is basically a private superannuation fund that you run yourself, and you can have up to 6 members in that fund. I won't go into detail now about how to set up an SMSF because that's a whole new topic in itself, and I can do a whole video on that if you guys are interested. But what I will say is that when you're setting up your fund, consider setting it up with a corporate trustee, particularly if you're going to buy a lumpy asset like a property, because this is really going to help from a fund continuity perspective if a member decides to leave the fund or someone were to pass away. Upon setting up the fund, you are going to need to make sure that the trust deed and the investment strategy both allow for the purchase of property. So for those of you who don't know, the trust deed is a legal document which sets out the rules, terms and conditions of the fund. And the investment strategy is basically what your fund can invest in. Once your fund has been set up and you have the appropriate trust deed and investment strategy, you're now ready to buy the property. And this purchase must be done on an arm's length basis. Now what that means is that the purchase of the property must be at market rates, any sale of property must be at market rates, and any rent that you receive from the property must also be at market rates. Now you do have the option to borrow through a self-managed super fund to purchase the property, but I seldom recommend this as a good idea. And the reason is because this needs to be done under what's called a limited recourse borrowing arrangement, and that comes with a number of extra costs and complexities, which often means that the strategy is a little bit redundant. But if you are interested in learning a little bit more about that, again, I can do a future video on it. Just let me know in the comments section below and I'll deep dive into that topic. But for now, let's just say that it's best to buy the property outright. Now, if you're thinking of buying a property off yourself with your superannuation, so transferring an existing property you own into your superannuation fund, or if you're thinking of buying a property off a family member or something like that, well, unfortunately, you can think again because that's not allowed. The purchase of the property must be from an unrelated party to any members of the fund. Now, there is an exception to this rule, and that's business rule property. But again, I won't go into detail on that now. Once you purchase the property, it needs to continue to meet the sole purpose test. That is, its sole purpose must be to provide a retirement benefit to the members of the fund. Now that means that you're not allowed to live in the property and you're not allowed to rent it out to a related party. I've seen a lot of people try and get around this rule where they have this idea that they're going to go and buy a holiday home and they'll rent it out majority of the year, but every now and then they'll take the family down for a sneaky little trip to stay in the house. And unfortunately, this is a big no-no. That's a breach of the sole purpose test. You're not allowed to do it. So now that we've touched high level on how to buy a property, let's go over some of the common questions that people are asking. Can I build within an SMSF? Yes, provided you don't use borrowed funds, because borrowed funds aren't allowed to be used to improve an asset. Now, provided you continue to meet the sole purpose test and it fits within your investment strategy and you're doing it outright, then there's not an issue with building. Is it more expensive to buy property through super? The property itself isn't going to be more expensive, but there's likely going to be an increase in compliance and operational costs when you're doing it through a self-managed super fund. Can an SMSF own property with other parties? Yes, it can hold property either jointly or tenants in common. Now, under this arrangement, it's normally more appropriate to opt for tenants in common. Just remember that the other party must be an unrelated party to the fund. You can also potentially do it via an unlisted property trust. Can I live in my SMSF property when I retire? If you still own the property through the super fund, then no. If you transfer the property outside of the super fund, then yes. But just remember that any transfer needs to be done on an arm's length basis. Can I buy furniture to fit out a property owned by my SMSF? Yes, provided it's not purchased with borrowed funds. Can I negative gear through my SMSF? Yes, you can, although because the tax rate in superannuation is so low, it's only a maximum tax rate of 15%, this is normally not a good strategy. Hopefully that gives you a good overview of some of the aspects of buying property through an SMSF. Now, I deliberately kept this video quite high level because it is a very involved topic. And if you want me to sort of do a deep dive on any of the individual aspects of that, leave me a comment below and I can do it in a future video. But this is one of those areas where I really would say that if you're thinking about doing it, go get some advice because there's a lot of tricks and traps and it's something that you don't want to get wrong. But that's it for me today, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and I will see you guys in the next one.